Level 1. The High Earner. The bonus hit notification illuminates your screen at 2:13 a.m. The number is $240,000. You stare at it for a moment, the blue light etching the fatigue into your face, before the screen goes dark again. You are 31 years old, a vice president at a top-tier investment bank, and your total compensation for the year has just touched $450,000. Statistically, you're in the top 1% of earners. Physically, you are a ghost in a $6,500 a month glass box in Tribeca. You spend 16 hours a day inside a Bloomberg terminal, executing debt offerings and recapitalizations for companies you will never visit. You are the high-performance engine of the system, but you are still just an engine. You feel the weight of the linear trap every morning. If you stop grinding, the money stops flowing. After the 45% tax hit and the high overhead lifestyle required to keep your seat at the table, that $240,000 bonus feels less like a fortune and more like a high-octane refueling for a car that never parks. You have $1.8 million in a brokerage account, yet you feel vulnerable. You are a professional athlete of finance. One bad season, one restructuring, and the income stream vanishes. The rules here are simple. Total availability and flawless execution. You answer emails within 90 seconds. You don't ask about the ethics of the leverage you're piling on to a retail chain. You just model the interest coverage. You are learning that at this level, respect is earned through stamina, but you also notice the way the managing directors look at you, not as a peer, but as an expensive tool. You are the 1%, but you are still labor. Level 2. The Accumulator. Your net worth crosses $5 million. The moment is quiet. There is no party, just a spreadsheet update on a Sunday afternoon. You've moved from execution to management. You're no longer just building the models, you're running the teams that build them. But the real shift isn't your title, it's your capital. For the first time, your money makes more money than you do. In a strong market year, your portfolio grows by $700,000. That's more than your base salary. The psychological tether to your paycheck begins to fray. You start paying less attention to your bank's compensation committee and more to the private client advisor the bank assigned to you. The language changes. You aren't saving anymore, you are allocating. You stop buying index funds. Your advisor whispers about private credit funds, tax-efficient shells, and direct real estate partnerships. You realize that the tax code is written for people who own things, not people who earn things. You start moving your wealth into structures that your name doesn't touch. You feel a growing distance from your old friends. When they talk about their careers, it sounds like they're talking about a hobby. You find yourself calculating the internal rate of return on every conversation. You are becoming a cold calculator of risk. You still work, but only because you haven't yet figured out how to exist without the status of the office. The system is starting to rewrite your identity from worker to owner. Level 3. The Investor. You hit $25 million. You quit the bank. You didn't make a scene, you just stopped showing up for the politics. You are now a full-time capital partner. Your life is no longer dictated by a calendar, but by deal flow. You operate in a world that doesn't exist on public exchanges. You get calls about $300 million logistics portfolios and venture rounds for AI startups that haven't issued a press release yet. You are invited into these deals not because you're a nice guy, but because your capital is efficient. You are a limited partner, or LP, in 3 different private equity funds. The rules of this level are about access and reputation. If you're difficult or slow, the calls stop. You learn the invisible code of the ultra-wealthy. Never use your own money when you can use leverage, and never sign a document that doesn't have an exit strategy. You are no longer a person, you are a balance sheet. A strange numbness sets in. You lose $2 million on a biotech seed round and don't lose a wink of sleep. You realize that at this level, money is just a scoring system. The visceral thrill of the first bonus is gone, replaced by a clinical obsession with basis points. You look at the world and see only assets to be stripped, flipped, or held. Level 4, the operator. The number is $100 million. You are no longer content being a limited partner. You want control. You begin taking anchor positions in companies. You don't just invest, you take a seat on the board. You help decide who gets fired and which factories get closed. You spend your Tuesdays in boardrooms of companies you effectively own. You realize how easy it is to manipulate the reality of a business from the top. You approve a restructuring that eliminates 400 jobs in the Midwest to optimize the EBITDA for a sale next year. You don't see the faces of the people you're firing. You only see the margin expansion on a slide deck. The isolation begins to set in. Your old colleagues are now your subordinates or your competitors. Everyone who talks to you wants something, an investment, a favor, a connection. You stop trusting friendly gestures. You become a master of the no. You realize that your time is the only thing you can't buy more of, so you protect it with a wall of assistance and security. You are the authority now, but the crown is starting to feel heavy. Level 5, the stakeholder. You cross $500 million. You are no longer an individual investor. You are a family office. You have a staff of 12 people whose entire job is to manage your life and your wealth. You have your own lawyers, your own accountants, and your own analysts. You are a sovereign entity. Your influence begins to bleed into the public sector. You don't lobby, you partner with cities. You donate $50 million to a university, and suddenly you have a say in the curriculum. You realize that charity is often just another form of capital allocation, buying social license to operate. The moral compromises are now systemic. You own stakes in industries that are complicated: defense, data mining, high-interest lending. You justify it by telling yourself that if it wasn't you, it would be someone worse. You've lost the ability to feel the impact of your wealth on the ground. To you, a market shift is a line on a chart, not a crisis for families. Your identity is now entirely synonymous with your net worth. Without the money, you wouldn't know who is looking back at you in the mirror. Level 6, the billionaire. The B word, $1.2 billion. You thought this would feel like the finish line. Instead, it feels like the start of a much more dangerous game. You are now a target. For the first time, you have a full-time security detail. Your children are driven to school in armored SUVs. You no longer look at individual companies, you look at capital flows. You meet with sovereign wealth funds. You discuss multi-year capital commitments with heads of state. Your wealth is so large that it has its own gravity. It pulls opportunities toward you that you don't even have to look for. You are a titan of industry. But the paranoia is real. You realize that at this level, your friends are people who control similar amounts of capital. These relationships are based on mutually assured destruction. You help them with their IPO, they help you with your regulatory hurdles. Loyalty is a transaction. You've become a master of leverage, not just financial, but personal. You know where the bodies are buried because you helped dig the holes. You are untouchable, yet you feel like you're living in a very expensive cage. Level 7, the architect. Your net worth is irrelevant. It's somewhere between $10 billion and $50 billion. But it doesn't matter because you don't have money anymore. You control the structures that move it. You are the person who designs the funds that the level 3 investors beg to get into. You are the architect of the system itself. You move billions across borders with a phone call. You decide which emerging markets get liquidity and which ones starve. Your decisions shape the global economy for decades. You don't care about the next quarter. You care about the next century. You are playing a game of geopolitical chess. The psychological cost is total. You have become a machine. You see human beings as human capital. You see nations as regulatory environments. You have reached the pinnacle of power, but you are completely alone. There is no one who understands your life who isn't also a competitor. You have reached a level of isolation that is almost mythic. You are a ghost in the machine you helped build. Level 8. The Ghost. You have moved beyond the list. You have scrubbed your name from the public record. Your wealth is held in a web of foundations, trusts, and holding companies that even the most determined investigative journalists can't untangle. You are the invisible hand. You don't attend Davos. You don't do interviews. You live on a private estate that doesn't appear on Google Maps. You have reached the ultimate level of the 1%. Total anonymity coupled with total control. You are the one who decides who the next level 6 billionaires will be. You are the architect of the architecture. The weight is immense. You realize that the entire system you spent your life climbing is a fragile illusion. You see the cracks before anyone else. You see the coming collapses and the inevitable cycles of greed. You are no longer a participant. You are an observer. You have all the power in the world, and you realize it was all just a way to avoid the one thing you couldn't buy: peace. You sit in silence, watching the numbers move on a screen, knowing that none of it is real. Somewhere in a glass office tower, a young analyst opens a terminal for the first time. He thinks he understands the game. He thinks it's about the money. He doesn't, but he will. The cycle continues.